Marvel's Wolverine and Sabertooth have literally been at each other's throats for decades now, but the Sabretooth War event brings their conflict to unprecedented levels of savagery. Join us in this video as we'll tell you the complete story of the Sabretooth War. At Orcus Station 5, Wolverine hangs from the ceiling of a makeshift battle arena where we find the original Victor Creed, aka 616's Sabertooth, eating the remains of an alternate Cyclops from another world. Wolverine takes advantage of the situation and drops down on Sabertooth, ready to drive his claws into the feral mutant. But Victor senses this within a split second and grabs Wolverine by the neck. It's revealed that this isn't really the Clogged Canuck, but a Sabertooth variant from a different world. Earth 33441, named Camo, a version of Creed who can basically shapeshift. Meanwhile, other Sabertooth variants within OG Creed's clique watch the battle unfold. We find variants such as Captain Creed of Earth 203, a Sabertooth and Steve Rogers mashup that's got the same costume as the Star-Spangled Avenger, but none of the heroism. There's Savage Sabertooth from Earth 1912, the female Creed variant, and Pretty Boy of Earth 12, who looks like a version of Victor pulled straight from an 80s crime flick. Pretty Boy tells the OG Sabertooth that they're done waiting. They want some action, so Creed tells his variant to shut it. Still, OG Creed lets go of Camo and tells his fellow feral mutants that it's time to roll out and get this party started. On the North Pole, the new base of the remaining mutants who used to live on the sentient island Krakoa, Black Tom Cassidy speaks with Quentin Quire, Kid Omega, that he's sensing mutant activity on their former island home. Tom says that they have to check in on them and hopefully rescue the stragglers, to which Quentin says that he'll handle it. Just a while ago in space, Victor and his gang of Sabertooths were fast approaching Krakoa aboard Station 5. They planned on wreaking havoc on the island, but none of them could sense any mutants there, only the old Stark Sentinels that were used to guard the Ex-Island nation of their species. The Creed crew eventually landed on the island, bypassing the Stark Sentinels circling its perimeter. OG Victor couldn't help but notice that Krakoa has changed from the mutants' once idyllic sanctuary into an abandoned ghost nation. In the present, Creed tells his crew that he feels cheated. He was planning on murdering each and every mutant he can find there, but to see that it's empty is a huge letdown. But Creed will get his wish after all, as he and his crew notice the presence of another mutant approaching the island. Just above Krakoa, Quentin Quire has arrived and is busy destroying the Stark Sentinels, who have been rewired to attack X-Gene carriers instead of protecting them. The corrupted Sentinels overwhelm Quentin, which forces him to retreat when he spots Wolverine waving to him from Krakoa's beach. The telepathic teenager flies down to meet Logan, but he realizes that this is not Wolverine, it's Camo. Quentin's too late to react as the shapeshifter stabs him right in the throat before getting beamed up to Station 5, where he and the rest of the Creed gang start having Kid Omega for lunch. On the North Pole, Akihiro, one of Logan's children, stands as a lookout for any intruders to the remaining mutants' secluded home base. Wolverine, the real one this time, sneaks up on him and tells the kid to stay sharp before handing him a caribou for Akihiro to prepare for dinner. Akihiro reassures Logan that he'll keep an eye out for any incoming threats, and Mutant X goes back indoors. There, Wolverine laments the fact that Krakoa is gone, one of the few places that he's able to truly call home. In the wake of its destruction, only this base in the middle of the North Pole, the station called the Greenhouse, is the last remaining sanctuary for his kind. Wolverine checks in on Sage, who's been busy monitoring their fellow mutants, to ask if they've heard any news from Quentin. She says no, which makes Logan antsy. Sage, however, ensures Logan that if there's a threat around, Black Tom will be able to sense it. Oh, how wrong they are. Because just outside the greenhouse, Sabertooth's crew and an army of headless Sabertooth variants that turn into their very personal zombie-like army are preparing to wreak havoc on unexpected mutants. Creed uses a device to block Sage and Black Tom's abilities and put them into a catatonic state. Meanwhile, Logan pays a visit to Laura Kinney, aka X-23, for a bit of daddy-daughter quality time. Wolverine basically tells her that if anything should happen to him, it's up to her to pick up the slack and lead the remaining mutants. Laura thinks that Logan's being weird, but she remembers that she has a gift for her quote-unquote dad. Too late though, because Logan has already left the room before she could hand it to him. Outside, Akihiro has just finished gutting the caribou when he suddenly sees his fellow scout get eviscerated by Victor with his entire army behind him. Akihiro has no choice but to go against Sabertooth despite knowing he's about to lose this bout. Sometime later, Wolverine checks in on Akihiro's outpost, only to discover that in true Sabertooth fashion, Creed has just left a birthday greeting for Logan on the snow. And just some distance away, Victor and his gang watches Wolverine mourn Akihiro's death. Logan spots Creed and his crew, and without saying a word, the Berserker lunges at them. All the while, Victor tells him that this isn't just a massacre, this is him fulfilling his promise to mutant kind after they threw him in Krakoa's pit in the past. Wolverine manages to hack his way through a few of Creed's mindless pawns, but there's just too many of them. He ultimately gets overwhelmed, and Victor produces a couple lengths of Omega Red's tentacles that he got from an alternate world to bind Logan, while he and his crew proceed to murder everyone inside the greenhouse. Pretty Boy protests before Creed can do this though, telling the big boss of the Sabertooth army that it's not a good idea to leave Logan alive, it's best to destroy him now. But if you know who OG Victor is, you know he revels in making Wolverine suffer, so he tells Pretty Boy to shut his mouth and follow orders. Inside the greenhouse, Domino and Laura wonder how old exactly Wolverine is, but their conversation is cut short when Logan steps into the room. Domino bids her friends goodbye, but Logan smacks her in the jaw and knocks her out. At that moment, Laura senses that this isn't her dad, and the fake Wolverine transforms back to his original form, Camo. X-23 rushes the imposter, and they get into a tussle, but she immediately notices that she's outmatched when Savage, Sabertooth, and Pretty Boy attack her from behind. In the greenhouse's observation room, Black Tom Cassidy and Sage remain catatonic as Laura contacts them for backup. Sabertooth's pawns enter the room and get ready to eliminate the two mutants. Somewhere else inside the greenhouse, Rasputin's sleep is suddenly interrupted when Captain Creed and a couple of Sabertooth drones lunge at him. But this is Colossus we're talking about, so he doesn't easily fall for it and turns his skin into metal before the feral mutants could get their claws on him. Outside, all Wolverine can do is smell and hear the massacre going on inside. He thinks he's failed everyone as OG Creed amuses himself by popping a mutant kid's head like a grape with his hand. Absolutely savage. The Sabertooth army continues their rampage, eliminating any mutant they can put their hands on. It's only until Alpha Flight members Aurora and Northstar arrive to rescue a couple of the survivors that the greenhouse mutants are able to mount a small semblance of a countermeasure. Aurora and Northstar head straight for the control room where Sage and Black Tom are just about to be eliminated. The Alpha Flight members manage to take out the Sabertooth pawns, but there's still the problem of waking up their two comrades. Outside, Wolverine finally gets his act together after reminding himself that everyone's gonna die if he's not there to help them. So to add more to the PTSD to Wolverine's already screwed up mind, he literally rips one hand off his shackles and then proceeds to claw himself out to allow him to escape. Don't worry guys, he's alright, it's just a flesh wound. Inside the greenhouse, Laura desperately fights Pretty Boy, Savage, Sabertooth, and Camo. The female Creed almost rips her face off, but Domino recovers and shoots her before Camo knocks her out again with a kick to the face. Pretty Boy checks in on Savage, who gives him a thumbs up to let him know that she's alright. But this leaves Pretty Boy distracted enough for Laura to sneak up on him. The female Creed gives her a low sweep that makes Laura lose her balance before the two remaining Saberteeth lunge at her. Inside the control room, Northstar and Aurora overload Sage and Black Tom with their energy to wake them up. It works, and the Alpha Flight members get them up to speed on what's happening throughout the greenhouse. Black Tom and Sage come up with a plan that allows the whole place to mark Creed's genetic signature and bind them with the greenhouse prehensile branches. Sabertooth sees this and notices that things are getting dicey, so he orders for a retreat. Meanwhile, Wolverine rushes into the greenhouse and straight into Laura's room, only to find that she's missing. In a flashback, OG Victor reminisces about his and Logan's time with Team X, an old government-sanctioned wetworks squad composed of mutants, and as Sabertooth himself would say, those were the good old days. In the present, Savage and Camo reprimanded Victor for what happened at the greenhouse. We find out that aside from Pretty Boy, Captain Creed was one of the other casualties from that botched attempt. Camo tells Victor that the only reason he allowed Earth 616 Sabertooth to lead them was because he thought he had a plan. OG Creed hears this and he doesn't take kindly to Camo saying that he allowed Victor to lead them. He tells his variant that if he wants to give orders, then it's jungle rules. Beat the king to be the king. All the while, Laura watches this brewing mutiny unfold from her prison. Another flashback reminds Sabertooth of Wolverine, a memory where Victor recalls the time where he fully understood what it meant to be a soldier, to follow orders and not question them. Back in the present, Sabertooth goes into his private quarters and greets someone inside. Now, guys, remember that doodad he used earlier to knock out Sage and Black Tom? Yeah, it's revealed that this is the same tool, and it happens to be Quentin Quire's severed head inside a box. Sabertooth has learned how to utilize mutant body parts and use them as weapons from Orcus. Creed asks Quentin's severed head about Logan, who tells him that the Clawed Canuck is planning on hunting him alone, and he's suffering after what Creed and his gang did to the greenhouse. After checking in on his personal telepath in a box, Creed tells Quentin to power down for the night while he gets some shut-eye. With Creed gone, Quentin's head suddenly releases a burst of telepathic energy before becoming dormant. Somewhere else, on Battleship Maroon, where the mutant group the Exiles reside, Oya and a friend of Quentin's is awakened by the same signal that the severed telepath head has sent. She gets a vision of Quentin's final moments, which prompts her to call for the rest of her team. Somewhere else on the ship, Third Eye is busy teaching other mutant telepaths how to use their powers. Oya arrives to report what Quentin sent her. Third Eye feels that Quentin is dead, but a part of him does indeed still live. They then decide to alert another one of the Exiles, Necra, about this. Oya tells her that they should stop Sabertooth, if only for the fact that this is Necra's only chance to get revenge on the feral mutant. Necra hesitates at first, but she ultimately agrees when Oya tells her that not killing Sabertooth will inevitably just lead to more mutants getting killed. Back at Sabertooth's base, Laura tries to stoke the fires of mutiny by taunting Camo about being Creed's lackey. Savage knows what X-23's doing, so she orders one of the mindless Sabertooth soldiers to gas her in her cell. Still, Laura continues messing around with her captor's minds, telling Savage that it's quite un-Sabertooth of her to hit her with mutant nerve gas instead of working with her hands. While the female Creed grants Laura's request, right after that, she opens up Laura's cell and rips her jaw off. Again, guys, this is one of the most violent storylines, but this is X-23, so yeah, it's just a flesh wound for her. Now, Laura might not have a jaw right now, but she was successful in planting that seed of dissent in Savage and Camo. Because just as the two Creed variants are leaving the room, they start talking about a full-on mutiny against OG Creed, one that involves locating Graydon Creed, OG Victor's son, to help kill Earth 616's Sabertooth. Back at the Maroon, Oya has assembled a team of Exiles, including Third Eye, Necra, Toad, Melter, and herself. Necra shows her team a killing seed and tells them that she intends on using it against Creed. Back at the greenhouse, the surviving mutants deal with the harrowing aftermath of Creed's ambush. Inside the greenhouse medbay, Aurora and Northstar try to patch Wolverine's body back together as the Berserker lashes out and struggles to free himself from the stretcher so that he can get revenge on the Saberteeth. But it's not like Wolverine is the only one hit hard by this tragedy. Aurora tells him that, unlike Logan, she can't just move on to the part where she seeks vengeance upon Creed, especially after they killed Akihiro, her boyfriend. Still, tensions might be high, but Aurora stitches up Wolverine nonetheless, while Northstar tells him that she just needs time to process this awful episode in their lives. Wolverine has just gotten back to his feet when Piotr arrives to tell him to suit up because they're about to go a-hunting for a straggler. It's revealed that Captain Creed didn't die at the greenhouse as he escapes to the frozen wasteland in between cursing his stupid teammates for leaving him. Hours pass. Logan, Colossus, and Domino try to track down Captain Creed. They come across a skinned, dead polar bear, which prompts Logan to think that this Sabertooth variant is nearby. Well, he's right, because Cap jumps Domino and knocks her out instantly, and we can just say that for a mutant who has the power of luck, Domino sure has her butt kicked a lot in this storyline. In any case, Cap steals Domino's gun and starts shooting at Logan. The two X-Force members retaliate with a classic fastball special, and Wolverine proceeds to beat the crap out of this Sabertooth variant. He only stops when Domino and Colossus make him realize that they need him alive to find Laura and the other Creeds. Later, Wolverine, Colossus, Sage, and Domino interrogate the captured Creed variant, but he won't give them anything. Logan almost decides to just cut their losses and take the guy's head, but they convince him to walk it off. Meanwhile, Sage and Domino try to come up with a plan to make Captain Creed spill the beans, and it's in that moment when Phoebe, one of the telepathic proteges of Emma Frost, arrives. Phoebe then taps into Cap's mind. Outside the interrogation room, sad Logan continues to be sad, especially now that he realizes that this whole ordeal with Sabertooth is his fault. After all, they've been one-upping each other for as long as he can remember. Logan finds the gift that X-23 was supposed to give him for his birthday and discovers that it's a mug containing a sweet, cheeky note from his daughter. And well, sad Logan just gets even sadder. Meanwhile, Phoebe successfully reads Captain Creed's mind and discovers everything that OG Creed has been up to about how he formed an army of Sabertooth variants and how all of this is part of his revenge for sending them to the pit. Phoebe gets overloaded with information in the middle of scanning Cap's mind, and Domino and Sage desperately try to sever their telepathic link. Sage notices that Phoebe might die from this, so Domino comes in clutch and puts a slug right in Cap's head, eliminating this Sabertooth variant. You don't need luck powers for that. Just before Phoebe passes out, she feels Quentin's psychic energy calling out to her for help. Sage and Domino think that she's just hallucinating though, as Quentin telepathically tells Phoebe to send help to his location and shows her a mental image of where Creed is, Krakoa. When Logan finds out about this, he was on that Blackbird to get some much needed revenge faster than you can say claws. Meanwhile, OG Creed and Quentin's head arrive on Krakoa, bypassing the Stark Sentinels around it with Orcus tech. This head in a box leads Sabertooth to a cave hidden in a corner of the island. Inside, Creed senses the smell of metal and uses Quentin's head to remove the cave's rubble to reveal what he's after. At Station 5, Savage and Camel proceed with their plan to overthrow Creed and kill him with the help of Graydon, his son. While all this is happening, Oya and the Exiles are aboard the Maroon and it sails towards Krakoa. Necra thinks that it's a bad idea that they brought everyone to this mission, even the children under their care, to which the rest of the team tells her that the kids themselves didn't want to be left somewhere else. They're just about to approach Krakoa's shores when the ship alerts them that the Stark Sentinel has spotted them. Meanwhile, Creed and Quentin have found themselves inside Forge's old lab, and it's here we find out the core of Sabertooth's feelings towards Wolverine when Quentin asks him about it. Sure, Sabertooth replies by telling the severed head that it's all about hate, but Creed ultimately admits that he basically misses Logan, the old Logan that used to be his buddy. To Victor, that partnership was deeper than family, deeper than friendship, and deeper than what lovers feel for each other. Wait, what? You heard it right, guys. Sabertooth's feelings for Wolverine are deeper than what lovers feel for each other. That's actually one of the most romantic things we've ever read in comics, and this is coming from Sabertooth. Eventually, Sabertooth finds a hidden room inside of Forge's lab where one of his old mechs spring into action and starts wailing on Creed. The feral mutant is taken by surprise and suspects Quentin is setting him up. Sabertooth ultimately dismantles the robot and tortures Quentin for messing around with him. But to Kid Omega's credit, he was telling the truth because whatever Sabertooth is looking for is right under the lab, as Quentin points out. Creed then calls home base, but no one is answering because at that moment, Savage is busy monitoring Camo in the other dimension. In the end, the shape-shifting Victor variant successfully jumps back into Station 5 with Graydon Creed in his arms. Well, at least that's what Camo thinks, as he and Savage get a look at this Victor and wonder what happened to his face. Back on the Maroon, the Exiles desperately try to outrun the Stark Sentinel chasing them. The system tells them that it's only a matter of time before the automation catches up and kills them all. So Necra comes up with a plan to engage their ship's thrusters and fly it to the Earth's atmosphere, hoping that it's out of the Sentinel's programmed defensive perimeter. It works too. Not only that, but it provides Logan an opening to enter Krakoa with relatively less hassle later that night. Just relatively though, because he ends up making a run for it anyway, with the rest of the Stark Sentinels detecting his presence. Back in Forge's lab, Sabertooth senses that Wolverine is coming for him. However, Logan feels a telepathic assault the moment he gets close to where Creed is, and the next thing he knows, he's trapped in an illusion that shows him and Creed in their old X-Team uniforms. It turns out that Creed has just used Quentin to control Wolverine's mind so that he can use the X-Force leader to bypass Forge's security measures further down the lab. Creed reveals that they're after Forge's arsenal, hidden deep within an underwater section of his lab. Mind controlled, of course, Logan does as he's told. Still, Quentin can't help but sense that Sabertooth is actually enjoying Wolverine's company, even if he tries denying it. While they continue their search for Forge's arsenal, the Exiles find themselves unable to penetrate Krakoa's Stark Sentinels. Necra gets desperate and orders to bombard the robots, but this doesn't do anything to take out even a single Sentinel. To make matters worse, the fleet of mechs retaliate with their own barrage of missiles that nearly sinks the Maroon, which forces the Exiles to turn their ship into a submarine and retreat yet again. A silver lining appears, however, when Oya senses Wolverine and Sabertooth's location underwater via Quentin's telepathic signals, so they head for Krakoa's depths. Eventually, Creed, Quentin, and Logan get past the tons of security measures that Forge has placed in his secret weapons cache, only to encounter Krakoa's golem-like guards inside. Back on Orcus Station 5, a Sabertooth pawn delivers X-23 food in her cell, but she starts promptly bodying it the moment it steps inside the cage. Laura successfully eliminates one of the Sabertooth soldiers, but a couple of the others arrive and beat her down. It was all part of the plan though, because X-23 wasn't trying to escape right then and there. She was trying to steal one of the neck collars used to control the feral army, which she was able to secure. Back inside Forge's armory, Creed and Wolverine finally manage to defeat the last of the creatures, and Sabertooth spots the gun that he's been looking for all this time. Before he can grab it though, Toad uses his tongue to swipe it. Sabertooth sees this, and it takes him just a split second to grab Toad's arm, rip it off, and eliminate him. The Exiles then gang up on Sabertooth, but he manages to eliminate Melter with the help of the brainwashed Wolverine. All the while, Quentin desperately tries to free Logan from his mind control, but it's too late. By the time Wolverine comes back to his senses, he sees Melter's hacked corpse in front of him. Even worse, Creed now has the gun that he was looking for, and it's the pistol that Forge created to depower any mutant it hits. Sabertooth shoots Logan, which makes him lose his healing factor before Sabertooth lunges at him. All the while, Orcus Station 5 has just arrived near Krakoa. Inside, Laura springs her plan to action and uses the stolen collar to open her cell. A couple guards chase after her, so X-23 jumps towards the station's air vents and eliminates the mindless Sabertooths chasing her to use their bodies to block the air duct's path from any other pursuers. Back inside Forge's armory, Creed wails on Wolverine. He wants to kill Logan, but he doesn't want the fun of making him suffer to end. This distracts him enough to let Logan get behind him and stab Sabertooth with his adamantium claws. Meanwhile, the surviving Exiles mourn the death of Toad and Melter. Necra decides that this is both Sabertooth and Wolverine's fault. In the end, Necra concludes that she'll kill them both. Back at Wolverine, Creed notices that he's losing the battle, so he puts out his trump card, making Quentin fry Logan's brain to eliminate him. At the greenhouse, Phoebe is woken up when Quentin telepathically communicates with her, who tells his girlfriend that Creed is making him kill Logan. By the end of their conversation, however, Phoebe manages to convince Quentin to relay his location so that the rest of the team can rescue what's left of him. Back inside the armory, Sabertooth can sense that he's still alive and admits he's disappointed that their fight didn't end in a bloody way. Necra arrives and starts giving Sabertooth a beating. She also convinces Quentin to free himself from Creed's control. The telepathic head manages to do it and skewers Sabertooth with psychic claws. To make sure that Creed doesn't come back, Necra throws her killing seed in front of the feral mutant, and a giant creature resembling a Venus flytrap devours Sabertooth. With the battle done, Necra asks Quentin if he wants to come with the Exiles. He refuses and tells her that he has his team picking him up soon. Inside Orcus Station 5, Camo and Savage have a talk with Graydon Creed, who's now become a cybernetic mutant calling himself Bad Seed. Graydon reassures Savage and Camo that he'll kill them if he gets a chance, but their conversation is cut short when Savage receives a call that Laura has escaped her cell. In the meantime, X-23 tries to find a way out of the ship, killing as many Sabertooth pawns as she can along the way. She comes across a door and opens it using her stolen collar, only to find that Savage is waiting for her inside. This room happens to contain the transmitter used to send signals that control the rest of the Sabertooth army. Laura's not planning on losing this time because she's pretty pissed, so she and Savage get into a fight before it ends with Laura getting the best of the female Sabertooth variant, ripping her heart from her chest. To add insult to injury, Laura fastballs Savage's heart to use it to destroy the transmitters in the room. Somewhere else, Oya, Necra, and Third Eye make their escape with an unconscious Wolverine. At the station's control room, on the other hand, Laura tries to hack into Creed's computer to deactivate all the Saberteeth. However, she fails to do this when Graydon and Camo arrive in the room. Sometime later, Wolverine wakes up inside the Maroon's clinic, where Oya is watching over him. He plans on taking out each and every remaining Sabertooth variant out there, but the Exile warns him that he's lost his powers. To that, Logan says that he's gonna need a new suit and weapon. Wolverine continues to recover from his injuries aboard the Maroon. At the same time, Victor struggles to free himself from the killing seed plant. They both reminisce about their century-long lives as they recuperate. Logan ultimately reminds himself that this fight isn't about revenge anymore, it's about protecting the people that he loves. On the other hand, Creed concludes that he's just done getting dunked on whenever he tries to go out there and make a difference. While all this is happening, Laura stands in front of Graydon, Bad Seed, Creed, Camo, and the platoon of Saberteeth. Graydon tells her that she's just gonna get herself killed if she chooses to fight them, but But X-23 has other plans. She has just deactivated the station's cloaking tech, which has alerted all the Stark Sentinels in the area, and instead of getting into it with Graydon, Laura opens up a hatch and jumps out of the ship. Meanwhile, Graydon sees that a group of Sentinels are headed up for their ship. Back in the Maroon, Logan convinces the Exiles to come with him back to Krakoa so that he can retrieve his failsafe, his secret weapon and suit of armor. Necra thinks that this is a stupid idea since the remaining Creed crew members are also there. Back at Krakoa, Graydon handles the Stark Sentinels by himself. These robots might be able to adapt to anything from this world, but Bad Seed's tech is from a different dimension, so he manages to hijack one of the Sentinels and use it to take down the others. On the ground, Laura recovers from her fall and watches as Graydon defeats the Sentinels, making her realize that she and her friends are in big trouble. Sometime later, Logan and the Exiles arrive on the secluded part of Krakoa. He reveals to the rest of the group that back when he had lived there, he had Forge make a secret bunker for him in case he ever lost his powers. At the greenhouse, Sage and the rest of X-Force receive a distress call from Laura. They mobilize quickly but remember that they don't have the Blackbird to get them there, so Black Tom uses his powers to craft a ship made from the greenhouse's vines. Back at the bunker, Wolverine has just emerged to reveal his brand new spanking armor that he's been saving in case he loses his healing factor. It's a suit made purely of adamantium, and in his hand is the Muramasa blade. Now while all this is happening, Sabertooth has just found himself trapped in a makeshift reality that the Killing Seed plant created to torture him. In it, Creed is trapped inside an Iron Maiden when he meets the avatar of the plant, who looks exactly like an acquaintance of Victor's, Doug Ramsey. Victor breaks free from the Iron Maiden while Doug speaks to him inside, but the feral mutant discovers that everything around him is spectral. He can't touch them. Suddenly, the office changes into a snow-covered wilderness, and Creed tries to decipher which memory from his life the plant has sent to him. He can notice that it seems familiar, but with a twist that just makes it a tad different. Ultimately, he realizes that the twist is instead of remembering these memories from his perspective, they're playing from the POV of the people he's killed over the decades. In this particular memory, he finds himself inside Silver Fox's body, Wolverine's old flame, just before he murdered her. Back in the real world, Bad Seed has just destroyed all the Sentinels in the vicinity of their ship. Camo tells them that they're not the only ones left in their team, to which Graydon replies that his dad's still out there. The shape-shifting Sabertooth variant basically tells Bad Seed to get over his daddy issues, and a pissed off Graydon answers by destroying the Orca ship Camo is on. On the ground, Laura runs for cover as the wrecked Sentinel debris rains down on the island. Soon after that, she spots the rest of X-Force arriving her way. Meanwhile, the Doug Ramsey avatar watches this and tells Creed that all this is happening because deep down, Victor feels guilty about all the atrocities he's committed. Still, Sabertooth hears this and isn't convinced about Doug's hypothesis. Back at Krakoa's beach, the Exiles drop off Logan to finish his mission. Oya wants to join him, but he tells the kid that this isn't her fight. Upon landing on the island's beach, Logan instantly gets in a tussle with Bad Seed. Meanwhile, Sabertooth has had enough of the Killing Seed's plant's illusions. All the preaching from the Avatar has just made him realize that he's a born killer, so he lashes out and ultimately frees himself from the plant. All the while, X-Force has just arrived to pick up Laura, and they spot Wolverine in a grueling duel with Graydon Creed. Like Camo before him, Wolverine tries to persuade Graydon to let go of his daddy issues and just stop trying to kill Victor. Bad Seed answers by telling Logan a version of "Shut up, you're not my daddy, you deadbeat," and uses his powers to craft a couple of gigantic kaiju-like sentinels. The Exiles see this happening and try to decide to stay and fight with the rest of the mutants on Krakoa. But surprise, because Victor pops out of the shallow water right behind his kid and punches through his daddy-hating chest. And no guys, this is not a flesh wound this time. Graydon dies, and this just enrages Wolverine further. He swipes at Creed with his sword while telling him just how much of a scumbag he is for killing his own son. In the meantime, Necra's absolutely livid that Sabertooth escaped the Killing Seed, while Third Eye tells the rest of the team in this world they're just people who are too far gone to save, like Victor Creed. Wolverine continues to stab and slash at Creed, who retreats further inland. This is all tactical though, because he knows that X-Force might interfere with his duel with Logan if he stayed on the beach. They arrive at an abandoned tiki bar and eventually find themselves deeper in Krakoa's jungles until they reach the Quiet Council, the same place where Sabertooth was originally sent to the pit. He reveals to Logan that this time he's granted a psychic link with the pit, and he proceeds to summon Krakoa's vines to drag Logan in there with him. Back on the beach, X-Force finally defeats all the Sentinels and decides to look for Logan. Inside the pit, the island's vines dismantle Logan's armor and disarm him. It then starts showing Wolverine plant versions of the people he loved and failed in the past, who then proceed to attack him. But Sabertooth emerges from the darkness to ambush him. All the while, Victor tells Logan that the best contribution he can give the rest of the world is if he dies. Sabertooth is just about to deliver the killing blow to Logan when he feels vines wrap around his arm. They coil around his and Logan's bodies as the pit throws them back out above ground. Sabertooth recovers and sees that the combined might of X-Force and the Exiles are right in front of him. Phoebe reveals that whatever psychic power he thought he had is child's play compared to hers. She's the one who finessed Krakoa into returning them from the pit. The mutant super team then proceeds to beat down Sabertooth and he gets easily overwhelmed. Phoebe was just about ready to shut off Victor's brain and eliminate him when Logan stops her. He tells everyone that he's got this, but he's the one who's going to flatline Victor and end the rivalry once and for all. Plus, double wow, Wolverine reveals that the adamantium armor Forge made him was able to restore his healing factor with science. Probably. Sabertooth agrees that they go for one last clash as they claw, nail, and sword hack and stab at each other and their self-regenerating bodies. Wolverine manages to chop off one of Sabertooth's arms and skewer him in the gut, but Victor just eats this up and takes the blade for himself. He tries to slice Logan's head off with it, but with a well-timed adamantium claw slice severs Sabertooth's sword-wielding hand. At that moment, Wolverine picks up the blade, remembering everyone that Sabertooth killed, and proceeds to chop his once eternal rival into several pieces. In the aftermath, Phoebe and Quentin reunite. He tells her it's time to let him go and promises her that they'll meet in other lifetimes. The Exiles leave and Logan realizes that they're only the remaining mutant group on the planet who's living the true Krakoan dream. Wolverine walks towards X-Force and the Blackbird, and as he boards it, he thinks to himself that he and Creed are really just the same guy, except unlike Victor, Logan chose to get over his murderous rage and embrace the bright side of life. He finally lets go of the thought of Victor and the island, concluding that his time on Krakoa, back when it was a safe haven for mutants, was one of the best experiences throughout his century-long life.